Welcome to the third part of the review of the CES letter. Reviewing the CES letter on Mormon Truth videos. This one is going to be really something. So we're looking at the letter to the CES director by Jeremy Rennell, and this is part 3. It's the Book of Abraham that we're primarily going to be focusing on, and I'm going to be using a little bit more information that we actually have in the CES letter regarding the Book of Abraham. We're going to absolutely and completely see that there's zero doubt as to whether or not Joseph Smith was what he claimed to be. There should be no doubt, at least following this up on a particular video that I get into a lot of detail on this entire subject of Abraham. And so I'm going to mention that right now just really quickly because it's very important. Okay, so going into the Mormon Truth Videos channel here, I'm just going to cruise down to where we match up with this video that we see here on the right, which is, it's called "This Mormon Truth Video Proves the LDS Scriptures," right on LDS.org. And we go through the authority claims, going into the Doctrine and Covenants on that, and then we go through some things in the Book of Mormon that just absolutely are devastating. And then we get into all kinds of detail on the Book of Abraham in here. So I'll document a whole lot of stuff in this video. There will be zero doubt left. You've got, it'll be the most devastating hour and a half you ever spend in terms of getting into the details, showing the fraud of the Book of Abraham more deeply than we're going to even see here. But we're going to touch on some of those things. I'm just not going to show all the documentation. So here we go. Jeremy's presentation on the Book of Abraham. So let's see what he's got to say here. CES letter. Book of Abraham, concerns and questions. All right, so he says, despite the claim that the record was, written by the hand of Abraham upon papyrus about 2000 BC, that's been completely and totally proven to be false. Everything that was here, Egyptian funerary text, not too far from the time of Christ. Egyptologists have found source material for the Book of Abraham and translated it. So none of it is what Joseph Smith said it was. Now we're going to take a quick look at these facsimiles here. On the left, we've got the actual material here that Joseph Smith had. Notice on the right, we've got where he or one of his buddies was an artist, I guess, and drew some things in that are missing here. So here we have the priest of Elkanah, who's also the priest of Pharaoh, who's about to kill Abraham. Abraham's saying, "No, don't kill me, please." But actually, that's a mummy. And actually, this guy with the knife, whose head we do not show here, is had in many common Egyptian texts, funeral documents. He is Anubis, the jackal-headed god who prepares dead bodies for the afterlife by doing the embalming and all that sort of thing. So I just call him Dr. Jackal. How about that? Not Dr. Jekyll. Dr. Jackal. There he is, the jackal-headed god. And all those little jars there, see those little, he said this is the god of Elkanah and god of Korash, the god of Mamakra, and all this stuff here. These funny-looking things down here. Well, those are actually jars to put like his organs in when he's being embalmed. Like throw his liver and heart and stuff like that and whatnot. So now they're not the Egyptian gods, and they don't correlate to anything in Egyptian religion. Yeah. Nice try, Joseph Smith. So here Jeremy goes through some interpretations of the facsimile things here. All right. So we've got these three facsimiles, and though the LDS apologists try so hard to make a way to make this plausible, or to make it, so we just can't determine things, and they try to claim, well, there must have been other papyrus somewhere else. There are some real problems, because Abraham in the text there, in the chapters, he refers to these facsimiles, and these facsimiles are known to have been created near the time of Christ. So how could Abraham be referring to these facsimiles if they were like 2,000 years in the future? So even though they say, no, he was just getting inspired looking at this stuff that had nothing to do with Abraham, it was written in Egyptian, that he paid $2,400 of other people's money for, that had nothing to do with Abraham. He's just getting inspired. That's what they say on LDS.org now, the Gospel Topics essay on this. Why was he getting inspired to mention stuff in these facsimiles that are known and dated to the time near the time of Christ supposedly lived? So it's a joke. So anyway, Jeremy very nicely here puts in some translations here. Let's blow this up. Joseph Smith's interpretation, what the Egyptologists have to say. And surprise, they are not at all the same. And I was just talking about all these jars here. We got the numbers on them. Numbers 8, 7, 6, 5. Yeah, those are jars to put like his lungs and whatever, all his internal organs in. They are not the gods that are named here. Okay? So here's the priest, but actually he's got the jackal head going on. He's Anubis. He's, the god of the dead. Whatever, preparing the dead body. I mean, nothing is right here. Nothing is right. See, it says Anubis there for number 3, but Joseph says that's the priest who wants to kill Abraham. His thing is completely and totally fabricated. Okay, and here's talking about Anubis again, and they've got these other shots of Anubis and other Egyptian literature. Kind of weird now. Anubis looks like he's got a pretty good tan going on, except for at figure number 2, he's a white guy. So I don't know if this is like different periods in their history, and they had some lighter-skinned people that were ruling, or, and mostly wasn't that way, because he's a pretty dark fellow in all except for one of these. But as you can see, he's not killing anybody. He's dealing with a dead guy there, a mummy. Oh, by the way, when Joseph Smith got these things, yeah, they were with mummies. They were with mummies. And Joseph Smith, by the way, said that not only did these papyrus, did these writings, were the writings coming from the hand of Abraham, which is completely and totally false now. And even the church has basically said that that's true. So they're already calling him a liar. But they try not to focus on that. They try to draw our focus away. It also said that the writings of Joseph, the great patriarch who was sold into Egypt by Judah, the first Jew, and the rest of his brothers. Had to get that in there. Cheap shot, huh? But that's what it says. Anyway, what happened to those? They paid all that money and he didn't even get inspired to give us the writings of Joseph. Now you might ask why. We don't pay attention to that. The LDS apologists and these essay writers, they try to draw our attention away from particular issues. Now when we get into the Book of Abraham, into the text, I know that's not what we're looking at right now, but I'm just going to talk about that just for a moment here, because we will see, whether here or whether if you go to that video I just referred to earlier, where I go through all those scriptures and you can read it. I mean, sure, you can just turn to it, but I mean, I go through this thing and reference all these things, and it just obliterates Joseph Smith's every shred of credibility. And so in Abraham chapter 1, we learn that despite the crap that we hear, from church apologists and from their, little shills like Kwaku and Ian on Three Mormons, that the priesthood ban, came from Brigham Young. It's in Abraham chapter 1. The Canaanites cannot have the priesthood. And of course, that was all linked, with hyperlinks to Moses 7, where it says they were black. They got turned black after they murdered the people of Shem and so forth. So it says, from this race that could not receive the priesthood sprang all the people from Egypt. And it said Pharaoh couldn't have the priesthood, and all the Egyptians sprang from that race. Well, why am I mentioning this in particular at this moment? Well, Joseph was sold into Egypt, and he married the daughter of the high priest of the sun god, an Egyptian. An Egyptian carrying the forbidden blood of the Canaanites, which could never hold the priesthood, which is why the descendants of Ham could not hold the priesthood, according to the book of Abraham, because Ham married Egyptus. And it said that Egyptus, signifies, like Egypt, that which is forbidden. He goes over and over this stuff. So, anyway, Joseph had 2 sons by this woman he married, an Egyptian woman, whose lineage could therefore never hold the priesthood, Ephraim and Manasseh. So no wonder he didn't translate any writings of Joseph, because he doesn't want to talk about Joseph getting married to an Egyptian girl after he's just said in here that all the Egyptians sprang from the Canaanite race. So Joseph Smith cannot have the priesthood according to his own theology in Abraham chapter 1. Ever thought about that? Yeah, neither could the Lamanites, because they're all supposedly of Manasseh, even though there were 3 tribes cited in the Book of Mormon. But just wanted to bring that out there. Jeremy didn't have that in here, but he's got plenty of other good information that helped me find more things that show us. So here we've got facsimile 2, and Jeremy's provided us with what we've got already on them, or in the book of Abraham, Joseph Smith says, but he's got it conveniently here organized for us of what these various things signify. So number 1, if we find number 1, it's kolob, and oh, by the way, when you're looking at the videos that I've got on the Dodger Game channel, actually, I got some of them on Mormon Truth, the EFY, especially for youth series, and number 7 of the EFY ones is about these facsimiles, and I just go into all these interpretations. So I'm not going to go too deeply into it here. We'll just take a quick look at what Jeremy's got here. But we're looking at the Astro-theology of the Book of Abraham there, and I prepared it especially for youth, but it's got some good detail in there. We go over here, and nothing matches up. Nothing at all matches up. Okay? It just gets ridiculous. Here's God on his celestial jet ski up here. Isn't that awesome? Is that a jet ski or what? But it just says, it says God is on his throne over here. Okay? It's God on his throne. Number 3. God sitting on his throne, clothed with power. But actually, it's let's see what it actually is. Is it Pharaoh riding a jet ski, or it's probably like Horus or something? Yeah, Horus Ray riding his boat. They didn't know about jet skis, but that's what it really is. Trust me, I've got a seer stone here. That is a celestial jet ski, and it's Horus, and he's out for a ride. Yeah. So anyway, nothing matches up here as we go through this, and it gets actually pretty close to X-rated there when it gets on the upside down. So I'm going to try to keep this clean and not mention exactly what's going on there, but yeah, it's got some stuff in there that, if you haven't told the children that the stork doesn't bring the babies, you're not going to want to read the rest of that facsimile, especially number 7, giving the key words of the priesthood, when actually he's asking his mistress to come sit on his lap, and I'm not going to mention anything more about that. But we do have to notice that in this next one, his mistress, here she is. She's right there. Number 4. Yeah, he makes no qualms about it. Is that Pharaoh? He's a bit of an adulterer, I guess. What do we got here? 4. Joseph says it's a that's 5. A waiter. The black guy's a waiter, but actually that's Anubis without his jackal head on or something, I guess. But a male prince. Yeah, Joseph's hottie there is a male prince, but actually her name is Mott. But if we look, more detailed, yeah, she's a mistress. So a mistress for who? Now we can look down here and see. Is it for Pharaoh or for one of the gods? I think it's one of the gods. Let's go. Number 4. Prince of Pharaoh, King of Egypt, says Joseph Smith, is written above the hand. But here we've got, this figure is a female, not a male. The mistress of the gods. Wow. She's the mistress of the gods. So the Egyptian gods have mistresses. They're not too worried about that whole law of chastity thing. Okay. In the afterlife, your wife is still getting cheated on in Egyptian religion, I guess. So, anyway, each and every one of these, of course, Joseph Smith is not showing us the same interpretation that the Egyptologists are showing us. Sorry, Joseph Smith. Not only that, Joseph Smith did an Egyptian alphabet. And that's right. If you guessed that they're all wrong, you were correct. Everything he did with regard to the Egyptian alphabet, which he copied stuff off of here, and then he gave us an interpretation in English, it's all total hogwash. All right, so let's see what Jeremy basically says what we've just gone over here. Facsimile 1, the name is wrong. Abraham, the scene is wrong. The gods are wrong. Everything, the gods were like the jars where he stuck like his guts in and stuff. So this just goes through here and just tells us everything is wrong. Facsimile 3, here we just went over that. Joseph says it's an Egyptian god. He misidentifies the Egyptian god of Osiris as Abraham. He says that Pharaoh, he says it's Pharaoh, but it's really Isis. So he gets, male-female thing. He can't figure out a guy from a girl. Wow. Well, hope he didn't have that problem in Nauvoo. If we look at what he did with the Danites and the spiritual wife system in that series there, it's horrendous. So he chased the girls, but he can't figure out what a girl is in Egyptian hieroglyphics, apparently. So he misidentifies the Egyptian god Mot as the prince of Pharaoh. Yeah, so that's basically everything we already said. Whore was actually a waiter, and the mistress was some guy. So, I hate to say Joseph Smith's clueless, but clearly he was very clueless. Okay, so here now he gets into the fact that he looks into the astro-theology and says some of the things Joseph Smith said seem to be some ideas that were popular in the 19th century. How about that? Just another coincidence. Stuff from Joseph Smith's era is, some of the prevailing scientific thought happened to find its way in here. And interestingly, of course, we find that in the astro-theology there that, the sun gets its light from Kolob, borrowing it. Now, Kolob's supposed to be in the center of the galaxy. So somehow our sun is getting its light, borrowing it from a star in the center of the galaxy. Yeah, okay. So Joseph Smith's got some pretty different kind of science. We got some, scientists were basically saying that he's full of it, and then we get to, well, there's several quoted here that are just saying it's ridiculous, the kind of stuff that Joseph Smith made up. It doesn't seem to go along with anything that they believe now is accurate science. Maybe that's, maybe it is or it isn't. But oddly just matches up very well with the book Joseph Smith happened to have, they say, from a man named Thomas Dick, Philosophy of the Future State. So, once again, as we had at the Book of Mormon, we've got books that Joseph Smith happened to supposedly have access to, which in their writings find it their way into revealed scripture. Here's Jeffrey Holland trying to BS his way out of an interview. The guy says, Mr. Smith, this is from the BBC here, British Broadcasting Company. Mr. Smith got his papyra and he translated them, and subsequently, as the Egyptologists cracked the code, something was completely different. So something completely different. Anyway, Holland interrupts him because he's getting devastated here. He says, all I'm saying is that what did get translated, what got translated was translated into the Word of God. The vehicle for that I do not understand, and I don't claim to know anything about Egyptian. But it was the Word of God, let me tell you. So Jeremy's not real confident by what Jeffrey Holland's saying, I don't know this, I don't know that. And so I'm going to interject something here, which is just along those lines. Gordon B. Hinckley getting interviewed was asked, so what's this deal about the Mormons can become gods? Since we've got like the King Follett discourse where Joseph Smith says you've got to learn to become gods. God once, dwelt on an earth like this, and he did what it took, overcame the flesh, and became the great Elohim, which means the gods. Nice. So they asked Gordon, and he says, and oh, by the way, Joseph Smith says things like, it's like the first principle of the gospel, other than faith or whatever, in Jesus Christ. It's to know the nature of God. It's super important. And so if you're any kind of a prophet, you should know, this, and teach your people. So that's, if you read the King Follett discourse, he wasn't a king, it was a guy's name, King Follett. He's a friend of Joseph Smith, and he died. Joseph Smith did his funeral sermon. So we got that in there. And Gordon Hinckley says, I really don't know too much about that. That's pretty deep doctrine, and I don't know much about it. I don't know anybody who does. I don't know that we teach it. I don't know that we emphasize it. So what if it was in the Priesthood manual right then, So what if Gordon B. Hinckley taught it in, say, 1991 in General Conference? So what if it's in Section 132 that says, then shall they be gods, for they have no end, then shall be the God, they should be gods because they, all things are subject to them, and etc., then shall they be gods, and Abraham's entered his exaltation, and he is a god, and Hinckley doesn't know squat about it, because he wants to look like a regular Christian on national television. Anyway, same kind of crap that Holland's doing. Denial and just BSing constantly. And, sorry, they have no credibility. So, I don't know. That's about all he can say. That's what you expect from a prophet, seer, and revelator. That's why we have them here. That's why they're in the payroll making the big bucks. Because they don't know anything. Okay. So all the facsimiles deal with stuff from the Egyptian mortuary religion is what he's calling it here. And it may be safely said that there is not one single word that is true in these explanations. And this is some hotshot from the University of London or something. So they got all these, so Jeremy's got these guys with all his credentials from these universities, Egyptologists saying basically, Joseph Smith's a complete idiot. Here's one. It says, it is difficult to deal seriously with Joseph Smith's impudent fraud. Smith has turned the goddess Isis into a king and Osiris into Abraham. Love it. Yeah. Okay. Continuing. Of all the issues, the Book of Abraham is basically what broke Jeremy's shelf. You're welcome, Jeremy. Okay, and then he gets into the polygamy thing. So I wanted to get into some of the issues that I got into more deeply here, or that he has not gotten into, which I got into in my video that I just mentioned here, in this one here. So I'm just going to go through a little bit of it here. Do this video proving the whole scene through the scriptures, mostly through the scriptures. Some things are not just in the scriptures. This Mormon Truth video proves the LDS scriptures right on LDS.org. Right on LDS.org. Doesn't mean that it proves them right. That proves them that they're a complete fraud, actually, is what it does. There's zero room left for doubt. So I just want to, I've got this already recorded, and I'm just going to kind of like zip through silently on this video and just, you know, have some things pop up here that are useful in illustrating these facts. Okay, so let's see what I got here. I got it on silent, and so what I'm going to do is we'll see this here, and that's one I've erased. That's a good one, mister. I had this stuff ready to go. Come on now. Did I open up the wrong thing? I really don't think so. Alright, I'm pissed off. So, the thing is, there are so many anachronisms in there, and actually Jeremy did mention that, and did I skip that somewhere? Linguistic anachronisms and false definitions for multiple things here. Words, you know, Egypt, you know, there's no such word as Egypt 2000 BC. I think that wound up having to do something with Greek or something. And, you know, Pharaoh, and we've got all this good information in that video I referenced, which even has, you know, Egyptologists going through and showing us how these various words are completely out of place 2000 BC. Pharaoh, you know, means great house, and, you know, wasn't even associated with the king, which we now call Pharaoh, until like, you know, 1500 BC or something. I mean, hundreds of years off. Thing after thing, and of course the, you know, the Chaldeans were not there for another 1,000 years, and that's an anachronism that also exists in the Bible, which obviously Joseph Smith was referencing and got caught once again. And a really huge one is Jehovah, because the Catholics made him up. And in there we'll also learn about, you know, like the occult leanings of a particular monk that invented Jehovah, you know, like 1270 AD, so almost 3,300 years after Abraham would have existed is when the name Jehovah comes into being. So that's kind of a problem, people, because the great and abominable church of the devil, all right, the great and abominable church of the devil created the name that is used for the premortal Jesus Christ, and in the Book of Abraham is the guy who's saving Jehovah, excuse me, Abraham. The guy who's saving Abraham from the priest says his name is Jehovah, okay? And the guy who is saying he is a god was invented by the Catholics, the Church of the Devil. And Jehovah, the Jehovah doctrine was preached by Satanists, you know, in the early, you know, America. Charles Taze Russell, those guys. There's a lot of really great information, but he didn't exist. So how is he in the Book of Abraham? How is he in the Book of Mormon? How is he in the temple when the Catholics invented him long after Abraham, long after the Book of Mormon, and he didn't exist in the pre-existence? So, sorry. It's all a pack of lies. Complete and total BS. Here we go. I mean, I document all this stuff in here. There's just no no truth in the matter. Sorry for that. I'm just doing awesome here, aren't I? Getting pissed off. This isn't working too well.
God thought his name was too sacred for people to be using it just casually. This name of my age.
I may have to do some editing. Okay, so here we have the history of the name Jehovah being created. You know, they didn't want to call Yahweh Yahweh because he got mad and kills people if he gets pissed off, and they just called him a title like Adonai, which means my Lord, or Elohim, which means the God. So anyway, this Catholic who was converted from some other occult bullshit, makes up the name that turns into Jehovah. It's completely anachronistic. Whoever wrote the Book of Abraham, which is evidently Joseph Smith, knew nothing about many things that he was writing. He was wrong, and more wrong. Yeah. Anyway, the Jehovah preachers were like Satanists, occultists, Freemasons. That's what this guy says. You heard it on the Mormon Truth video. Got this documented in Mormon Truth videos and on the Dodger Game channel too. The detailed history of the name Jehovah, the massive fraud. Well, number 4 will be about plural relationships that the church falsely calls plural marriage. Sometimes called polygamy, which was something more like what Brigham Young got into. Joseph Smith did the spiritual wife system, and it was way worse than what they tell us about in the essays or in gospel doctrine. Adios, amigos. Hope you hit the like and comment and subscribe and all that good kind of stuff. Goodbye, Yahweh.